Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. Stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Hello, I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven, and we're here today with Caili Elwell. Welcome, Caili.
Thank you so much for having me.
So nice to have you here. So the PR Maven podcast talks about everything to do with PR and personal branding. And Caili is someone who has built a personal brand around food allergies. She's the owner of Mother Eats Proper, a space for food allergy brands, private chefs, and dining experiences to gain public relations, affiliate program, and brand partnership support. It's because of her 4-year-old daughter who has over 7 severe food allergies and her background in food CPG branding and hospitality management that she decided to open her doors to food allergy safe brands and spaces, exclusively believing the conversation around the food allergy customer deserves more of non-allergy safe brands and establishments time. Caili lives here in Maine with her 2 children, and on the weekends she teaches meditation and grounding techniques, which is a good thing to have, at Salud in Portland. So Caili, tell us about your career and how you got into it in the first place.
Yeah, so I studied tourism and hospitality management as an undergrad at Temple University. Always knew that I wanted to own my own kind of hospitality establishment in some way growing up. Very much took after Lorelai Gilmore from Gilmore Girls, since I grew up in Connecticut, going to school there. Very much similar to the town that Gilmore Girls was created around. So I don't know, I just always connected with wanting that tight-knit community, really wanting that to take care of people. And I fell in love with the hospitality, realm and industry very, very much at a really young age, probably like 10 or 12. Watching relatives of my dad's that own franchises within the hospitality space. They owned restaurants, just like well into their 70s, take care of their customers. So they did everything from take orders and bring food to the table and prepare the food and wipe the tables down. And I just saw their level of dedication and how much they loved people and loved taking care of people. And that was really contagious for me. So I knew that I wanted to do that too. But through my undergrad, really fell in love with writing and magazines and publication and travel, but really specifically interviewing within travel and hospitality. And that pretty much launched my career with American Hotel and Lodging Association, which I brought as a student chapter to Temple. And they have Lodging Magazine, which is a pretty big magazine nationwide for the hospitality industry. And I started writing for them at 18 years old.
Wow. Do you still write for them now?
I wrote for them up until I was about 24. And then I moved on. And I've, since then run several coffee shops and salons and many different types of hospitality. And I've just always fallen in love with customers and people. And I was working at a restaurant when I had my daughter. And at 3 months old, we realized that there was something going on with her. And she had a rash from head to toe. And just as a first-time parent, it was super scary, just not knowing what was going on with your little kid. So we, did all the things that we thought were right, bring her to the pediatrician, switch her formula. And by the time she was 7 months old, a trip to the emergency room was a confirmation that she had some severe eczema and some severe food allergies. She couldn't break protein down on her own. So her first 2 years of life was really us trying to re-navigate food. And food has been such an institution in my life. And it's just me and my kids now, and really trying to navigate with my daughter and now my 1-year-old. Like how can we all just love food again, and how can we all come together and make delicious food but also go out into the world without fear? And working for amazing places like Taja at Pulp and Wire and Maine Magazine and Scordo during my time living here in Maine, I've learned so much about the food CPG space and so much about the hospitality space here. And that's what's really solidified this food allergy space for me, that it's needed, that someone needs to really champion for them the way that I can.
Yeah, and I can see, you talked about fear going out in the world with your daughter, but I would think that it's even more fearful sending her off, like you mentioned that she's at school today.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you talk about how fearful that is when you send her off?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I've done a lot of education for myself and a lot of advocacy for her, of course, right? Like with any parent, you're always advocating for your kid in some way. For me specifically, and for many parents out there with kids who have food allergies, whether it's 1 or 10, like my daughter, or more, it's really about, okay, there's different settings in which she's going to be. There's the doctor, there's social, like the birthday parties, there's learning, like school and education, and it's my job to understand, just like in public relations, the different ways of talking to her different settings and the different people that are going to be interacting with her in those different settings. So parents versus educators versus doctors. And I got my certification in food nutrition, specifically with families with food allergies last year. And that's when I really started to learn, okay, we can like edit out pantries and we can really start to look at ingredients. And I've taught her how to do all those things. So she has her own little cabinet and she knows that that's where all of her safe food is. And she knows all the right questions to ask adults when she's away from me. And she self-carries an EpiPen and she's almost 5 now. And that's terrifying, right? Like as a parent to send her out in the world, like you said, with a needle. But she knows that that's for her safety. She knows that an adult will administer that if she absolutely needs it. We've gone through it already before where she went through anaphylaxis and we needed to go to the hospital and she's gotten it administered. So she knows the process and she's very process oriented, thankfully, like as a kid, just in general. So she's almost taught me so much about being her parent and what she needs to be her parent. So it's been a team effort, I think, between the two of us and a lot of education. But I'm really fortunate enough now to have created this platform of Mother Eats Proper in my documentary, which I know I'll talk about later, where I can be a resource for other parents in my position.
Yeah. And you're equipped with all the skills, you're articulate.
I'm learning. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I'm still learning about PR at my age. And, I think you have to just be curious until you're done working. So, tell us about the documentary that you created.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was going through and getting the certification for food nutrition coaching. And I was pregnant with my son at the time. And I started to write a book. And I started to write this book that was so resourceful and full of educational tips and tricks of like how to go grocery shopping if you're a parent with a kid with a food allergy, and what to have in your pantry, and vetted, trusted brands for at least like ones that we keep in our house. And I felt like if my daughter could have it, it was probably pretty safe for the majority of kids. And this book just started to feel like it was meant to be more. And I reached out to a friend of mine, Kevin Sennett of Stray Arrow Media. And I said, there's been years of me wanting to work with you. I think I finally found the project for us to work together on. Would you read like the intro to this book? I think I can turn it into a treatment for a documentary. And once I did that, I turned it into a treatment and I sent it off to him. And he was like, yes, let's do this. Let's work together and do this. And the whole premise of now the documentary, because of course it shifted from what the book was to the documentary. It's still an educational resource. It's still a way of advocating for families with food allergies, but the documentary specifically is called How Do We Make It Better? And it focuses on families with food allergies and the food brands and hospitality experiences that impact their lives.
Wow.
So going out to eat, just me really straddling that line, right, of being a parent and someone who's worked in the hospitality industry for so long. I felt like that bridge, it was about time that bridge was built.
Right.
For better more effective communication between the food allergy customer and front of house and back of house for hospitality, and vice versa. I think equal parties need equal skills like in their toolbox, right?
Yeah.
And some places do it fantastic and some places need a little bit more help. So I have a wonderful roster that I'm very excited about of people, local and national, that are going to be interviewed.
Oh, so you haven't produced the documentary yet?
We're shooting the trailer right now, and I have the roster set to go. We are fundraising right now, so I have a PayPal account that's all set up for fundraising. I'm doing some really great bake sales with some local gluten-free bakers and dairy-free bakers in the area. We're going to be doing some fundraising dinners next year, and then I have some great other surprises in the works. So the documentary is going to be filmed all next year.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Wow, you have a lot on your plate, literally.
Yes, and I like it that way.
Oh, good.
I like it that way.
Can you tell us about your journey from hospitality management to advocating for food allergy brands, establishments, and families?
Yeah, I think just from the natural evolution of going from being a student in an educational setting and studying hospitality and finding my way, hospitality is so broad.
Yeah.
There's so much to do under the hospitality umbrella. It's not just restaurants and hotels. It's so much more than that. So as I stated earlier, like I just wanted to own a bed and breakfast. I just thought that was the greatest thing going into hospitality management. And then my whole world opened up and I said, oh, wow, there's so much I can do. There's so many different ways I can help the world while still being of service in the hospitality setting. So it went from that, the shift, and then just being so food centered. I was such a foodie. I went to school in Philadelphia, which just this year was actually named, I think, the top food city. And it was a beautiful scene of all these different restaurants. And I was always that person to like take my friends, be like, let's go this place, let's go try this place. And I think I've always carried that part of me throughout every change in my life, every career change, every move, everything. And it's something I definitely wanted to instill in my daughter. So when I started working with all these consumer product goods brands, these CPG brands, it just kind of dawned on me actually last year, on Mother's Day. Why am I not working with food allergy safe brands only? Because I'm very knowledgeable in what to look for. I'm very knowledgeable in what is safe and how to advocate for the food allergy customer. But I also understand branding and I understand hospitality. So
yeah,
it all just kind of came together where I collided all parts of my life.
Yeah. Well, as someone who goes to restaurants often, I do notice that there's definitely a difference. The restaurants where they ask you about food allergies from the moment you make your reservation, and then again when you arrive or when you sit down, to those that just don't have anything about it. They don't ask, and they're
Nope.
So it's like, is that because they're not aware, or they don't care, or they just think that you'll advocate for yourself?
I think it's a lot of different things, and I really think it depends on the establishment. Right?
Yeah.
Some establishments that are very aware of food allergies and are really good at training their staff. Will train their staff to ask, are there any allergies at the table? Sometimes people forget because people are human, and your restaurant is very full and you have a lot of tables and it's very demanding. Like I said, I've been on both sides. I've been a waitress. I was a waitress for many, 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 many years. And it helped me put myself through college, and it helps after college is a really good grounding, way to ground yourself is go and be of service in the service industry. So I understand that side of it where people forget. And I don't want to say that every restaurant is careless, because I don't believe that either. I think it takes a lot of resources to educate your staff on food allergies. It also takes a lot of time. And as we know, COVID hit the hospitality industry so hard.
Yeah.
And getting good help, never mind getting help.
Yeah, at all. Yeah.
At all into your hospitality establishment is really tough right now. So I think it's going to be a conversation, and I really hope it's even more of a conversation, especially because of the documentary and all of the community. This food allergy community too is so fiercely loyal. The second that we find a place that we like that takes really good care of us, we are going to advocate for your establishment and tell everybody about it. So I think it's worth investing time and energy into training your staff around food allergies, because you will grow a giant extra demographic
Right.
of loyal customers.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to take a short break now. And it's funny that you mentioned that because, I have a book called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand.
Mm-hmm.
And, if our readers or our listeners want to get the first chapter, you go to prmaven.com/giveaway and sign up to get the first chapter. But it's essentially growing an audience like in a niche, just like, the parents of children with food allergies, like you're saying. So we'll be back in just a moment with more from Caili.
Sprague & Curtis is a locally owned real estate company. We're primarily focused in central Maine. I got excited about Nancy's book because she's so well known in the area for her marketing and branding techniques, and we're always looking to expand and learn and grow, and so a lot of us here at the office decided that we wanted to read her book and learn some new techniques.
It benefits Sprague & Curtis to have a large brand and audience because there can often be multiple years between transactions with clients, so it's important to network with them and stay in touch with them in those in-between periods. And this book really helped us learn some techniques and methods to continue to do that. We organized a small book group with Nancy's book with brokers in our office this winter to share information and remind ourselves how important it is to always be working on our network and continually reaching out to our customers.
Platforms like social media are important in expanding your business, but equally as important are handwritten notes, cards, letters. She inspired me to send her a note of appreciation, just thanking her for the book and her insight. In reading Nancy's book, I was excited to look to continue to grow our brand and our audience. I think she does a great job of motivating us.
Nancy's book really helped me learn a few things in marketing and branding and how important it is to stay on top of reaching out to clients periodically, staying top of mind, providing useful information, and really telling our story as a company.
Welcome back, and we're here with Caili Elwell today, and I just want to remind you that you can get a free chapter of my book by going to prmaven.com/giveaway, and you can sign up for our email list and we'll send you a free copy of Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand. So we're talking with Caili today about Mother Eats Proper, this enterprise that she has launched. And tell us about your approach for brands and PR.
Yes. So I have really constructed this PR consulting service that really focuses around creating that craveable narrative, right? So brands that are super yummy and that are super well defined. And I find often that brands that come to me are wanting a change, or they're going through a restructure or a rebrand, or maybe they haven't quite figured out what their brand is yet. And part of my superpower, I feel like, is helping them figure out who their people are, what their demographic is, what other partnerships align for their brand. So that's really what I've structured Mother Eats Proper around, because I know my audience are food allergy safe chefs, food brand, consumer product goods brands, and hospitality experiences. So all of my people that I work with understand the food allergy customer very well. And that's really helpful for me because then I know who to partner with them with. I understand who their demographic is, and we can really narrow down together on all their branding and the right PR placements for them, the right podcasts for them, the right publications for them. I think really understanding not only your clients, but their clients is, right? I'm sure you would agree, is like the key to success with working with any brand. So for me, it's really about creating that narrative, creating that brand story within everything that they do.
Right. And showing how they're serving,
exactly the value.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Solving their greatest problems of their audience and their client. Yeah, that's awesome. So what is important when working with you? What is important to know?
Well, I'm very family focused, of course, being myself with 2 little kids. And my whole ethos is around family. It's family with food allergies. It's being a working mom. So it's really that flexibility. It's really creating those healthy boundaries between my work and my clients' work, and understanding that open communication is always best, vulnerability is best, and that we're going to get through everything together, whether it's a hurdle or a success. I really want them to know that I'm part of their team, and I'm always championing them and cheerleading for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure they can feel that, and they know that you're a champion for them.
Yeah, well, thank you. And
Yeah.
I also really believe in wellness. Wellness is another aspect to my business too. So really creating that space for them to, like you said, be vulnerable and really know that they can tell me anything, and we can create their whatever brand it is that they want to create. I think leaves a lot of room for creativity, which is really fun to play with.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. And you teach meditation and grounding techniques. So I know what meditation is, but what are grounding techniques?
breath work.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I teach a lot of it to my 4-year-old because
Yeah.
as we know, kids have a lot of big feelings. So a lot of it is her inhaling and exhaling and tracing her fingers, or when we're in the car and she's starting to have big feelings, it's okay, let's raise our hand like we're in a roller coaster, and let's exhale as we push our hands down, and she can feel the air going down underneath her hands. And we have all these little breathing techniques that I've taught her, because it's really hard for a 4-year-old to sit still and to go into meditation for 5, 10, 15 minutes. So I've taught her the Gabby Bernstein Peace Begins With Me. She does that quite often, so she'll say her mantra over and over again while feeling her fingers. But 4-year-old or 45-year-old, I think those techniques are super helpful. I know that growing up, there were techniques that I didn't even know about that I wish I had. So we all have big feelings, and we should all be able to ground ourselves when we need it.
So funny you say this, because I remember as a teenager, I had a hard time sitting still, and I was always fidgeting, and my parents didn't know any of these. I remember, I think my father bought me a book called The Relaxation Response when I was a teenager, but it was this big thick manual, and it was I don't really I didn't see that I needed that. Mm-hmm. But if I had learned something simple like that, it would have been helpful.
Mm-hmm. And I feel more and more kids these days too are being diagnosed with stress and anxiety and this and that and ADHD. And if we just learn to breathe for 5 minutes. Another thing is I have her jump 5 times. So if she's having a meltdown or something, just jump 5 times, and it snaps her out of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or we keep Sour Patch Kids, which she can have, in the house, and I give her a Sour Patch Kid if it's just out of control, because it's that sour sensation in the mouth that really snaps her out of it. But for at Salud, we wanted something, Dory and I wanted to create a class for her demographic that wasn't just a plain old visualization meditation, but was with purpose. And of course, with all of the crazy things that are happening in this world and so many entrepreneurs being part of her demographic, we really thought that grounding was a really good way of summarizing what the class is about. And so that's what I teach. Within the meditation class, you have a little lesson, we do a visualization, and then I'll teach a breath work, or we'll go over, usually class goes over the time limit because people just get so into the meditation and they don't want to come out of it. But we'll learn a little something every time too.
Yeah, I love that. So is there a book, an app, or a podcast that has helped you, and why?
There's, so right now I've been listening a lot to a podcast called To Be Magnetic, or the Expander podcast. The company is To Be Magnetic, and then there's the Expander podcast, I believe is what it's called. And Lacey Phillips, if you look up Lacey Phillips, she's the owner of that, creator of that. And it's really just helped me stay grounded, and it's helped me always kind of have an eye on the prize, And there's days in entrepreneurship that are really, really hard. And you just don't know where your business is going, or you have a million directions that you're being pulled in. And her podcast is just full of really wonderful knowledge of women all over the world that have gone through similar things, or maybe not going through the exact same thing I'm going through, but I can still find something relatable within it. So it's something that I've taken that's not maybe 100% exactly career related, but I can apply it to every single part of my life to kind of keep me on track.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow up?
So you can email me at mothereatsproper@gmail.com. My website is mothereatsproper.com. And then my Instagram is just at Caili Elwell. And if you're interested in following more about the documentary, it's How Do We Make It Better, Doc.
All right. How Do We Make It Better, Doc?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, I look forward to seeing the documentary.
Thank you so much. Me too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation today, and I wish you all the best with your daughter and your son.
Thank you.
Now, he doesn't have any food allergies?
Not that we know of yet. He loves his cheese. He's 1 year old, so he just is an eater, and that's great. And I hope both my kids grow up to be foodies like me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
Well, I hope you have a great day, Caili, and I
Thank
hope
you.
everybody in PR Maven Nation has a great day as well. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the Skills and Games section to find and enable the PR Maven Podcast Flash Briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.